Today, our topic is taken from book 103, that is Health and Safety Management System. Like I said, Mr. Timmy has said a lot of things on this very course books, so maybe I'll have to skip certain things. The content we are going to look at the guidelines on occupational safety and health, management system, employers' involvement in health and safety at work, managers' involvement in health and safety at work, working with contractors and consultants, supervisors' involvement in health and safety at work, employees and other stakeholders, safety representatives, working together. Guidelines on occupational safety and health management system. The ILO, the full meaning of ILO is International Labour Organization. Guidelines on occupational safety and health management systems. That is 2001, follows a structure that uses the following key elements: policy, organizing, planning, and implementations, evaluation, monitoring, review, measurement, investigation, audit options for improvement. Now, when we talk of policy, policy is just a summary of what the company aim and objectives are, or what the company intends to achieve at the end of the day. So I have a slide. Let me just share that slide as we all go through together. Hope you can see the slide from your end. This is a policy that we organize for a company by that name, Green Line Logistics. And this is alcohol, drug, and smoking policy. Let's read what is in the document. Green Line Logistics Limited is committed to protecting the safety, health, and well-being of its employees and all people who come in contact with its workplace and services. The use of drugs, tobacco, and alcohol can create risky situations and thus run contrary to the requirement of safety and professionalism. The company will ensure that all employees recognize this threat and aim at minimizing the risks involved. So take a note of this keyword here. It says minimizing the risk. Minimizing the risk. Now, to this end, Green Line Logistics Limited will ensure that no person, employee, or subcontractor shall smoke, drink, distribute, and or trade in tobacco, drugs, and alcohol within the workshop or site herein considered as a public place. Designated areas for smoking will be used. Ensure that employees who have alcohol, tobacco, or drug dependence will be encouraged to seek medical advice. Advise that all employees of the company will at all times exercise diligence in monitoring their colleagues and others who are in the premises and sites and noting any evidence of alcohol, tobacco, or drug abuse. Ensure that subcontractors are in compliance with company no alcohol, drug, and smoking requirements. The company has therefore put these conditions by which no person shall report for duty whilst under the influence of alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. Report for duty whilst in an unfit state due to previous consumption of alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. Be in possession of alcohol or non-described drugs during working hours. Consume alcohol or non-prescribed drugs during working hours. Failure to maintain the standards set by this policy will be considered as gross misconduct. Persons found not complying will be suspended from performing services for the company. Upon suspension, any employee and or subcontractors, personnel herein defined as own employee found to be under the influence of alcohol and or drugs will be appropriately dealt with. Signed by the managing director. So now, this is just an example of a policy. So by going through this document, I hope you now understand what policy is. So like I said, our document also gives us an explanation of policy. We have different types of policies. We have HSE policy. We have drug and alcohol policy. We have quality policy. We have transport policy. We have environmental policy and many more. We have different types of policies. So depending on the area you are coming from, you need to get a policy that will guide the nature of work that you are doing. So when we come to organizing, health and safety standards are structured and operated so as to put their HSE policy into effective practice. So this policy that I read through with you, before it can be enforced or before it can be implemented, the HSE team has to make sure that the whole staff, the whole employee knows about this policy. For instance, you are telling me that I shouldn't smoke alcohol in the premises, but I should smoke alcohol at the designated place. I'm an employee. I'm not aware of this policy. I come to work and, for instance, I go to the filling station, just stand around the place or around the office and start smoking. You cannot hold me accountable. You cannot hold me responsible. Why? Because I don't know that I'm not supposed to smoke at that area. And I don't know that the organization have a smoking designated area where I have to stay and smoke. So it is very necessary that the health and safety team has to organize it in such a way that all the staff will be in known of the policy, the procedures that the company has set in place. This is helpful by the creative of a positive culture. Our mom S will be taking us through this positive culture. So we'll get to know about the type of culture that we are talking about here. If the culture is negative, forget about it. But if the culture is positive, then count it as a plus. That secure involvement and participation of all levels. So when we are talking about a positive culture, then we are talking about a positive culture where the director or the directors, the manager, the supervisor, the whole staff are involved at the operation grounds, where we are supposed to wear helmet, reflective vest, we are supposed to wear safety boot, goggles, and other things. The director will not come there with a suit, 3 pieces, and come and stand there and start bragging. And when the HSC guy confronts him that, manager, this place is an operational grounds and you cannot be here with your 3 pieces suit, and the director will tell him that you are fired. In that sense, it tells you that the culture there is negative, it's not positive, because the director is not obeying the principles, the standard, the policy laid down that everybody is supposed to follow. When we are talking about positive, then we are talking about a situation where the director will come to the field with the 3 pieces suit removed and hanged in the office, with the reflector worn on the dress, with the helmet, the goggles, the safety boot on. Then he comes to the field well dressed, well prepared, ready to fight at the battlefield, where we call the operational grounds. So when the director is able to come to the grounds with such an accoutrement of weapon, what we call PPE, then we are talking about a positive safety culture being implemented. So our cost study material tells us that the safety culture that secure involvement and participation of all levels, that is the key word there, all levels. Their aim is not simply to avoid accidents. So the aim of the procedures, the aim of the policies is not just simply to avoid accidents, but to motivate and empower people to work safely. So if you are being told to do something which is positive at your workplace, that doesn't mean the person telling you to do the right thing, whether your colleague or your supervisor or your manager who is telling you to do the right thing, that doesn't mean the person hates you. Normally, we the Africans, that is our kind of culture, which is negative. When you are doing something that is not good and the third person standing by tries to correct you, you take the person as an enemy, that the person hates you, the person, doesn't want your betterment. But that is wrong. We are learning today that anybody who wants your welfare, anybody who wants your well-being, everybody who wants something good from you will always correct you when you are going astray, when you are doing things that are not good, when you are doing things that are negative. Those people who rather loves you, who rather, want the best from you, will always correct you and shape you and make sure you are on the right path. Let's come to planning implementation. The aim is to minimize the risk created by work activities. So on the policy statement that I showed you, I made you aware that take key note of that word phrase over there, minimizing risk. That is what we are seeing here. So the aim of the planning and implementation of the policy or the procedures is to minimize the risk created by work activities. Like I rightly said from the beginning, just look around you. Everything around you is hazardous. Everything around you is hazardous. If everything around you is hazardous, then how can you eliminate the risk that will be involved in those hazards around you? So that is what we are talking about. The policies and the procedures are there to minimize the risk that will result in that hazard being affected. Where even possible, risks are eliminated by a careful selection or design of facility, equipment, processes, or by use of control measures or PPE. So when all these things are done or in the process of elimination, you have to put certain control measures in place. So in health and safety, we have what we call hierarchy of control measures, where we talk about elimination, substitution, engineering, right down to PPE. So putting all those controls in place, we have the possibility of reducing the risk, eliminating it, or carefully selecting maybe engineering method or administrative method. If it comes to PPE, selecting the appropriate PPE, not just PPE, but the appropriate ones. Because we have a lot of PPEs, but some of them are not appropriate. For instance, if you are working with chemicals and you wear a cotton gloves and you are working with chemicals, although you have worn a gloves that is a cotton gloves, but it is not appropriate to the work that you are doing. But if you should wear a PVC gloves in working with chemicals, there you have worn an appropriate kind of gloves for the type of work that you are doing. If you are working as an engineer, holding a spinner, trying to loose or unloose some bolts and nuts, and you go and wear PVC gloves, and you are working with it, fine. Although you have worn a gloves, that gloves is not appropriate to the work that you are doing. That work that you are doing, you need a very good grip. So you need to wear a cotton gloves. That will give you a good grip in holding the spinner in working. So you need appropriate kind of PPE to wear. So in your planning and in your implementation, all these things comes together and you have to put it into action. Now we talk about supervision, evaluation, monitoring, review, measurement, investigation. Supervision can persuade, encourage, or even pressure managers into improving their HSE systems. Now, when we talk of evaluation, putting the policy, the organizing, the planning and the implementation in place, what you have to do is you sit back and you try to monitor, look at the design, the system. Let me come back home. In our various homes, we have all become children before. Let me take it from there. When we were growing up, you can see that from the house, the father is the head of the house, followed by the mother, followed by the elderly, either brother or sister, and it follows like that. So we have what we call chain of command. So that chain of command comes into play when we are talking about an organization structure, a chain of command. So, putting all these things in place, we try to evaluate the system and see that is the father playing his role well as a father? Is the father able to take care of the children by means of talking to them, disciplining them, maybe caring for the house by means of, providing from the pocket or whatever means? Is the mother able to take care of the house by providing meals and other aspects, training the children with the house chores and so forth, housekeeping and all those things? So in monitoring, we take a look at those things and see how it goes. The same way when we bring it back to the organization structure, we look at the director. Is the director obeying the rules and the regulations governed by the organization? Like I illustrated earlier on, the director coming to the field without wearing PPEs. So if the director comes to the field without wearing PPE in evaluation, then it means the top management are not obeying the rules and the regulations of the organization. So in that space, the safety culture of the organization will be undermined. Because if I'm on the field and I'm not wearing helmet and the safety manager comes to tell me that wear your helmet, or why are you not wearing your helmet, I will just point at the director to him and tell him that look at the director is standing here, he's not wearing anything. Why don't you go and tell him to wear it before you come and tell me? So you see that this thing will create a chaos in the organization, and that brings the negative aspect of culture. So in evaluation, the monitoring aspect, it tells you that things are not going on well in the organization. If people should go to the field without doing, first of all, risk assessment, assessing the risks involved in the work that they are going to take care of, and putting the necessary measures, control measures in place, and they just go to the field, carry on and start working, then there is a problem which needs to be taken care of. So in reviewing, you review all these standards because all these documents need to be saved in a file. These documents need to be communicated to the staff by means of email, by means of printed media, by means of posting on the notice boards, by means of pasting them around the premises. So in reviewing, you go through these documents and see where the shortfalls are coming from and how can these shortfalls be rearranged or amended. So you measure. Is the document too heavy for the staff to be able to obey? Are the rules too hard for them to be able to comply by? Or what is the problem? Why is the staff not able to comply by the rules and the regulations? So now you come to investigation. So you come into investigation. This is the time that you can ask the staff one by one. Try to ask them questions like our senior moderator tried to ask questions from the previous class, what we learned, and we saw that all those answers that came was a positive answers. So you try to ask questions. Now you are working. You are wearing your goggles. You are wearing your helmet. How do you feel? Are you okay? He says yes. The other person will say no. Why no? The person should be able to tell you why no. You have to, if the other person says no, you have to find out why no. Why is that person saying no? You have to find out, jot those informations down in your review. You have to capture all those things and take them to management meeting. Okay, Yima, come on board.
Yeah, forward. Just like Mr. Richmond was saying, is trying to explain to us the nature of organizing. You know, following the ILO guidelines on occupational safety and health management system, there are systems in place. He have shown us the sample of policy, how the policy should look like, what the policy should contain. And it's from there you will now see the company's commitment, because the policy have to also be signed by the chief executives or by the minister of a region, of the office, or the principal, or whoever. The top leader in such an organization signs the policy. The policy is signed by the highest ranking officer of any institution, including in government and also in the private sector. And by so doing, you have given it's more or less like setting up an internal law, internal standard that every employee must comply to. If you don't comply to it, you are fired. You heard what Timmy said from United States. If you are caught keeping or blocking the exit routes, you'll be fired. Just mistakenly keeping a chair or a desk or a bag or something in the entrance or the exit of an emergency exit route, you are fired. Once it's investigated and found out that you are the one that kept it and there was no reasonable reason, in fact, there shouldn't be no reason why you should even keep it there. Because once emergency is coming, it have no alarm. Once fire is triggering, it gives no alarm. Therefore, that is why the right attitude of every employee must always be in order to control the environment. And that brings it down to the organizing. That is what Mr. Richmond was actually explaining earlier on. That brings it down to organizing, making sure that things are well organized, making sure that everybody complies, starting with the manager, starting with the safety supervisor or the safety manager, because you will say because you are the leader and you will not comply, but you want to control the staff or the artisans who are doing the laborer work. Because you are the supervisor, you feel that it's not necessary that you should comply to it because you are not the one doing the job. No. For reasons of management and doing what you want the followers to do, you need to dress appropriately. You need to follow the same guideline. You need to follow the same policies that you are setting up. You are asking them to be well kitted, therefore you have to also be well kitted while coming to the site. If you go back to the office, you can move out your helmet and remove your hand gloves and whatever. But once you are within their presence, you have to be well kitted. Now, going back or going forward with the next one, which is planning and implementation. That brings it to planning and implementation. So there should be proper plan in place. There should be proper plan in place, because once there is no planning, that means once there is no planning in place to achieve anything, that means there is no way forward. And that means that there is going to be a whole lot of clauses, or there is going to be a whole lot of lapses and failure and anything happening because there is no planning. Because it's the planning that will help you achieve the expected or expectation. What is your expectation as a safety representative or as a safety manager? What is your expectation? Your expectation is to make sure that the project is well executed with zero fatality. That should be your expectation. That's what it should be. And if you should have such expectation, what is your plan to ensure that you achieve zero fatality and accident at workplace? Knowing that you have different kind of mentalities and behaviors and human beings to manage. So you must have the appropriate plan in place to make sure that you control them, to make sure that they comply, to help them develop the system, to help them develop the format and the template you want them to work with, to help them put strategies in place which you want them to deploy. Then when you do all this and there is no improvement and they are not working and they are not complying, that is where you bring in implementation, which is enforcement, making sure maybe the person is not getting it right. You have to eliminate such hazards. Such a person have to be moved out of the site. That have to be elimination in that case, because leaving the person there, controlling and managing it, is just waiting for a time bomb. You're just waiting for a time bomb. So when you have triggered a disaster and the people are dead and all that, so what will you do? Will you kill him? The answer is no. So why didn't you move him out of the site when you knew that he's not complying after you have put all the plan in place, you have developed all the templates in place? You know, the problem we have sometimes as safety managers from my evaluation is that the safety managers, because they don't know their job, they assume that these are matured men, they should know that these are senior managers, these are artisans, these are human beings, these are matured people, they should know what to do. It's a lie. It's a lie. Take it off your record today. If you want to succeed, you have to assume that they know nothing. You have to assume that they don't understand that they have to use their hammer and put it back to their toolbox. So you have to lament and tell them the reasons why they have to use this hammer and return it back to the toolbox. If you don't do that and assume that they should know, they wouldn't do it. They will just keep it there, and the gentleman who is coming with a trolley will just stumble it over it, and there is an accident, and there is fear everywhere. So at that point, what do? Accident have already happened. So that is where planning and implementation is very, very key and very, very vital. Very, very key. If you don't have a proper plan in place, you cannot achieve an effective occupational safety and health management system in an organization or in a work site. It won't work. Now, when you have put all these things in place, that takes you to the next step: evaluation. What is evaluation? Monitoring, review, measurement, investigation. That is evaluation. Evaluation is not just for you to move around the site and just carry your file, go around and say, okay, you have seen what is happening, everything is fine. No. That is not an effective evaluation. That is just a walk around you did. Just a walk around. Monitoring means you have to monitor the process which you have developed. So if you have not developed any process, there is nothing you are monitoring. You have nothing to monitor. So you have to develop the process, develop the template, develop the structure. Then you have to watch if they are really complying to the structures and everything you are putting in place. That's where evaluation comes in. And that is where you measure the level of compliance of the workforce. That is where you measure it, to know those who are complying, those who are understanding, those that is not moving along with you. You have to now start planning a special training class for them, a special monitoring and counseling, knowing whether they have some spiritual problems from their home, or knowing what is pursuing them, or knowing if they are really having some marital problems at home, knowing if there is some problems they have within their families that is affecting them doing something else when they should be doing something right. That is where evaluation comes in. You see, now that takes you to review, that takes you to measurement. You have to measure, you have to measure. Measurement is knowing the level of the output. The output means knowing the level of the compliance. Then when they are complying, you know that your procedures is working. You know that your policy you developed is working. You know that the planning and the toolbox meeting you are doing, sharing ideas with them, telling them everybody comply, do this, do that, you know is working. But if there is nothing in place, and it's just for you to just gather them and just sing Simon and do prayer meeting, within the two boss meeting time and just discuss and just encourage them and tell everybody, oh, yeah, move to side. You are just waiting for an accident to happen. Just wait for it to happen. There is no two ways about that. Investigation is part of it. When you have done all these things, you are doing an effective evaluation. Now, that takes you back to audit. Audit becomes more intensive because you have to go a little bit deeper to audit the system, the policy. Maybe you told them that if you are a driver and you are driving a forklift tomorrow, you must not have a cigarette, or you must not smoke a cigarette 24 hours or 6 hours before driving the truck or the trolley or the heavy duty equipment or coming to work. So if there is a policy like that, and you now carry out an audit or assessment to find out that even the 6 hours or 24 hours smoking before driving the forklift is not helping matter, you have to now say, now you need to review, you need to re-audit the system. You need to now come up and say, no, ladies and gentlemen, following this and this and this, there is going to be a review. It's no more 6 hours. We are not going to have 48 hours of smoking before driving any heavy duty equipment. That becomes the outcome of your review, the outcome of your audit. That is the way it goes. So when you look at all the whole procedures you have put, the whole policies, the whole organizing, you need to audit the system. You need to audit the system. In some cases, you need to check what are the challenges they are having in terms of the resources provided, which is part of what you have to audit. Maybe the safety shoes, the hand gloves and all that. You have to go a little bit deeper and to come up with some assessment form, or maybe go around, carry out some interviews for them to know, for you to know exactly what they are passing through, to know if there are issues. These are the matter. These are the matter that is very, very serious. That takes you to actions for improvement. Actions for improvement. When you are talking of actions of improvement, that is a further action, a further steps you need to take to make sure that your goal, which is the policy, zero fatality, zero accident, is achieved. Because you remember, you are managing as a safety manager, a safety officer, as a safety supervisor. Remember and note, you are managing a law. It's just like a judiciary or maybe a lawmaker who is giving a judgment with a document which says this is a constitution or this is a law. So the health and safety management system, which constitutes part of policies, part of template procedures, self-working procedures, the self-working ethics, and so many things. These are what constitute the health and safety management system we are talking about. And you are the boss who oversees, who manages, who reviews, who plan and order. So you still need to be looking at actions for improvement. That is coming up with further steps that will help you achieve those processes. In some cases, you have to come up with what we call reward system. Reward system. You have to come up with what we call some incentives to make sure that people comply, that people really, for example, in the construction sector, when I was there actually, I have a system which is part of my improvement system, where I have informed all the whole artisans and all the whole officers under my control, if anybody finds any unsafe act, any unsafe behavior of any worker, because I have already told them that as we are all here, 100 employees, one of us can form part of the hazard, any of us. So we already know that John can be a hazard today. We already know that Francis, or we already knew that James, we already knew that Kemi, Fumi, they can form part of the hazard at work today. So for that reason, you have to watch out to report some behaviors, to report unsafe condition also. Unsafe conditions are those equipments and those processes that are in place that can constitute or that can cause fatalities and other. Maybe leakage, the leakages from a hydraulic equipment, or maybe a forklift dropping some hydraulic oil and all that, because as he's doing that, he's also losing strength. That means it can collapse at any time. So these are unsafe conditions. So anybody that report these systems is going to receive a free lunch, is going to receive a weekend package. This is where I learned all these things and I implement them, and it works. It makes my work more easier. Because you see people calling me, Engineer Manuel, you see this one, there is something I saw in slot 108. There's an equipment, I don't know who parked there, and any vehicle can stumble into it. I have to control immediately because I can't be everywhere. So you have to make everybody a safety manager, a safety officer. So these are part of the improvement. Then another one is also, as they are complying and you see things are working, you also have to provide them. I provide them with good bottled waters, provide them with cold waters and things of that nature. When the sun is hitting, you know, we are all in this under the sun and all that, doing the job. So these are some incentives and some allowances that we provide that makes everybody happy. But for those who does not comply, and there are some stubborn ones too, you also have to manage them accordingly. Giving them sanctions, sacking them off the site, because you have to be very, very careful. That is safer and better for you. Because once you have a corrupt system within a good management system, it also affects the whole overall output. That is the way it works. Mr. Richmond is back.
So we are looking at health and safety at work. An employer status that is separate from the individuals who run the organization, into bracket, board of directors. Employers have legal duties to manage health and safety risks arising from their work. So at the end of the day, whoever owns an organization, either self-employed or you have built a company that you have employed more people, you are named as an employer because the organization is for you. So employers have legal duties to manage health and safety risks arising from their work. So every CEO or a director of an organization, some people say they are presidents of an organization. So all these people have a duty of care to take care of the staff, to take care of, the managers, the supervisors, right down to the cleaners of the company. The duty of care is to make sure that their health and safety risk is minimized to the very lowest degree. They have the ultimate accountability for the impact their activities have upon the safety, health, and well-being of employees and anyone else affected by their work. So like what my brother Ima was saying, in an organization, if the employer takes it upon him or herself to appraise, to reward those who do good things in the organization, you could see that everybody would try to meet that kind of mark. So that in that case, let's say this year, if I'm the one that received the award, you will also try to at least overtake me or do something that is going to be so special in such a way that you will try to receive the award next year. So in that case, if you have that kind of reward system in an organization, it helps to build and also to motivate the people to, put up their best. I said to the last class that although I wasn't the safety manager then in the office, but I was able to provide some PPEs for some of the workers according to their needs. Because myself, I'm a PPE dealer. So in my organization, I look at you and I see that maybe you need a gloves or something that will help in the type of work that you are doing, and the organization is not providing. At a point in time, I take it upon myself. I come to my shop, take any of them, and just dash it out. Sometimes, depending on what you are doing, at the field, I'm able to buy some drink or something for a staff, just to motivate the staff to, for him to feel at home. It is not from the coffers of the organization or the director or the manager, from my own coffers, but just to motivate the staff, just to say, oh, thank you for the hard working. So it builds some kind of rapport for the staff, and the staff is able to work and work with all enthusiasm. Now, this is what we are talking about, employers. The employers has a responsibility as part of their duties. The employer has a duty to ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, health, safety, and welfare at work. So the employers has this responsibility to make sure that as far as is reasonable practicably, the staff will have their washroom, the staff will have their dressing room, the staff will have a place where they can eat as canteen, and some organizations have what we call this thing. They
You
have,
mean a recreation area?
yes, recreation areas where maybe Fridays they close work at 3 o'clock or something. Then they will have some games, activities, just to shake the body up. So these are something that the employers has responsibility for. Even if they don't have that recreational centers, what they do is they use the managerial system. They will close the workers in the afternoon. They will organize them into a bus. Then they will take them to a stadium. They will get somebody who is good in aerobics and those things to take them through some sections. And before the end of the program, you see that the whole staff are very fit, are very strong, and are very happy to receive such an atmosphere. Employers also have legal responsibilities for the health and safety of their customers if they design, manufacture, or import products. So, if you are a manufacturer, you have a duty of care to make sure that the product you are manufacturing will not have effect on the consumers or the end users. So if you could remember, I think somewhere last year or last 2 years, Toyota Ghana, Toyota company came with a memo that very year, all those who have bought a specific brand of Toyota needs to return all those Toyota into the factory back, because they realized there has been a program on that batch of manufacturing that came out. So they recall all those cars back into the factory for refixing. So this is what we are talking about here. If you are a producer of food, a caterer, or a food manufacturing company, you have a duty of care to make sure that all those products that you are, the food that you are producing, are not harmful, are not toxic, and are very friendly for the consumers and also friendly for the environment. So you can see that some of the bottled waters, we have shapes on them. If you are watching my video, you can see this bottled water that I'm holding. You can see that there are marks on this bottled water. This marks on the bottled water makes it very easy for you to crumple the water after drinking it, because when it is big as I'm holding it, it takes space in your dustbin. But if you crumple it and makes it smaller, you have enough space in your dustbin to put other things in them. So this is what we are talking about, that friendly to the consumers and it should be friendly to the environment. So there is this word, reasonably practicable. In health and safety, we mostly like to use this word because some of the things that we would like our organizations to do are not reasonably practicable. For instance, if you are an organization where the HSE sees that maybe a machinery, okay, needs only a guiding, which a manufacturing company can easily manufacture, or they can just go to the market and buy a guide and fix on the machine. Instead of going to the market to buy the guide at, let's say, $1, now you come to management and tell management that the guide is not in place, so they need to replace the machine, which is going to cost about $100. Now let me ask you, if you are oh sorry again, if you are the director of the company, are you going to accept the $100 or you are going to accept the $1 bill? Every director is going to accept the $1 bill. So in this case, it's not practicable. Even if it's practicable, it's not reasonable to replace a whole machine with $100 instead of $1. So that is the meaning of reasonably practicable. So every organization try to minimize a cost. Mr. Emma, take over.
Okay. Going forward with responsibilities, he's talking about the responsibilities of the employers and all that. He says the employer has a duty to ensure, so far as reasonably practicable, health and safety and welfare at work. You see, in this case, you have to do everything reasonably practicable. And doing something reasonably practicable is part of what we are discussing earlier. You know, putting all measures in place to make sure that the health and safety and the welfare of the workers are put in place. You see, because when you look at the word reasonably practicable, you have to put necessary measures in place. Employers also have legal responsibilities for the health and safety of their customers if they design, manufacture, or import products. So, irrespective of the work environment or irrespective of wherever you are or the work, the nature of your job, you have to make sure that you provide that you have legal responsibilities. I mean, you have legal responsibility. That is why in the developed world, if an employer refuses to do the needful, they have to report the employer to appropriate government authorities, where they will now sanction them, or maybe sue them to court, or maybe call them to order, or things of that nature. These are the because the employer have legal responsibility. So it's not a kind of appreciation or a kind of whatever for employer to provide employees necessary requirements and equipment they need to perform their job safely. All employers and their directors have duties of care under the common law of negligence. Yes, they have duties of care. You know, this issue of safety, we are talking about life here. You know, we have to look at the lives of these employees. If any man should lose his life, that means the wife, the family, and the person may be I don't know how to put it, maybe the person that is providing for his own family, for extended family, for his siblings and everyone. That means you have crippled the hope of so many people. You have crippled it. So that is why you must make sure that you have that duty of care, duty of love, duty of responsibility. As a health and safety representative, you must have that consciousness. It's not that you are just doing your job. No. It have to be, in this case, it have to be emotional. You have to care for them. You have to love your employees. You have to keep good communication for them to tell you where the errors or where the problems are coming from, so that there will be no loss or no issues arising from the work site or the work environment. Very, very important. Now, self-employed people have the same responsibility as employers. You are a self-employed person, you have to also have that the same responsibility to make sure that you don't constitute hazard or problems to employees or to the people within your environment. You have to make sure. You have to make sure you don't constitute problems to the community, your host community, where you are doing your job, where you're performing your duty. As far as the general impact of the work is concerned, you have to make sure you do the needful, you keep the environment clean. You can see what Mr. Temi said earlier on when they were doing a project in Lagos State, because the Lagos State governor and also the environmental management agency or something might have taken it upon themselves to make sure that everybody comply, not to litter the road, to litter the environment because you are doing construction. No, it's not welcome at all. So they have to do extra work. They have to do night work to make sure they pack all the rubbish over the night before the day. That happens because the government is involved and the government is sanctioning them. So if you leave them, I will tell you categorically that they won't mind if the waste coming from that construction site is blocking the road, or is causing traffic. It's not their business. It's not their business. But in the real sense, it's not supposed to be so. You're supposed to know that, yes, people are using this environment. Therefore, you have to do the needful to make sure that the right things are done. Now, going forward to achieve the employer's responsibility, you as the manager also, you have your own involvement. That is manager's involvement in health and safety at work. You have your own involvement. Individuals, directors, and managers are delegated the legal duty of the employer. You know, when you are a safety person or a safety manager or a safety supervisor, you are the one taking the responsibility. You are the one taking the responsibility to make sure that the employees are safe, and you are the one taking the correspondence from the employees to the management, because all the employees will not meet the MD of the company or the project manager, or everybody must not meet him. So you are the one they know when it comes to their welfare, when it comes to their safety, when it comes to anything affecting their productivity at work. So you are responsible. You are the focal person in charge. So for that reason, you are already given that responsibility, that involvement, to make sure that you are carrying your responsibilities, and you are being responsibly obligated to do the needful all the time. Together with directors, the directors that set up the policies, yes, the directors, the managers who have set up these policies, they also need to work together to make sure that the policy is executed. The organized financial resources appoint people, design health and safety management system, guide supervisors, work with safety representative of the other partners. Yes, that's part of what you do. Because when you are a safety manager for a particular organization, you should know that your principal partners or your clients also have their own safety representatives who are also watching as far as the project is concerned. So you are the one that need to be corresponding and also making sure that the necessary things that need to be put in place as far as the project is concerned are put in place, and making sure that the right thing that need to be done in your workplace are actually done. Very, very important. Because in some cases, you find out that people don't do the needful. They don't do the needful because this safety manager from XYZ is expecting that the other company should be able to do this or should be able to do that. No, you have to make sure that necessary things that need to put in place to organize, including financial resources, including having the right persons, including setting up the safety committee, which have to come from different units of the organization. All those things are all put in place, including guiding the supervisors. The managers guide the supervisors. Supervisors guide the officers. The officers guide the employees, the workforce. That is the flow, the hierarchy of this sector, you see. And from there, they relate with everybody involved as the case may be. So these are the things that are involved as far as health and safety management system is concerned. Now, also, managing health and safety at work involves actions such as planning for health and safety policy implementation. And in some cases where there is no health and safety policy in place, you have to develop one. That is why Mr. Richmond showed you the sample earlier on. Or if you just go on Google and type health and safety policy, you see different format and different types of health and safety policies. You study them. You study them to understand every company have their own tailored design health and safety policy depending on the capacity, the size, the kind of the nature of project of such organization. That is how these things are structured. And resources have to be provided. Communication have to be on the forefront. Communication to the community, to the host, communication to the management, communication to the partners. So you have to be up and doing. You have to be up and doing. You know, that's why yesterday when I was giving you the foundation, it was as if I was trying to scare you away, as William said earlier. You know, I'm not trying to scare you away, but I'm trying to tell you the reality of the job. The job requires very intelligent and smart delegation, because you are going to be communicating to the employees, you are going to be communicating to the public, and all these things have different channels of communication. For example, you are in the construction site, you need to communicate to the public. How do you communicate? You have to make sure that the safety signs that need to be at different intervals of the roads or within the project or within the environments are positioned to guide people, to tell them there are hazards here, to tell them there are flammable gases here, no smoking, to barricade the areas you need to barricade and put signs. You know, you need to be up and doing. So you don't assume that they should know now. Don't they know that they are doing job there? If they fall, that's their cup of tea. You know, in some cases, that's what so many safety officers do at the work site. They are so careless that they don't know that it's their responsibility. If anything should happen there, you are the one to hold responsible, not the person that fall inside there. You are the one. Because the first question is that what did you do to make sure that people don't fall inside there? That's the number one question. And once you can't answer that, if you go to court, that's the first question you have to ask. What are the measures put in place to make sure that nobody falls inside there? That is why if you see some road construction Julius Berger is doing, they have to do extra work. Sometimes they have to put high duty lights to make sure that people can see at night, not to fall or drive into such a ditch. They know what they are doing. If they don't do it and any vehicle ran into such excavation or into such what, they are paying in billions and in millions. They are paying. Because once you land in court, a reputable court, the point is that you are constructing roads, we know. What are the measures you put in place to make sure no vehicle fall inside there? Knowing very well that you know that some are drunk. So what extra measure did you even take for those that are drunk? Because it's part of your job. You should not assume that they won't get drunk. No. This is a public road. Some are going to be drunk driving. And you must know that. That is where thinking smart comes in. Thinking smart comes in. So you don't have to assume that no, they are driving and they are saying, or they should know that we are constructing. Are they not seeing? Are they blind? No, that is not an excuse if anything should happen. You have to be emotionally intelligent to know what should happen, how will it happen, and what are the things you have to communicate to make sure it happens. That is how smart the job is. Now, employee involvement, very, very important. So you need to get everybody involved, all the employees, and making sure you carry everybody along is very important, because there are some people that lack some characters of good communication. They lack characters of mutual relationship in the workplace. And if you lack such, it's very difficult, because you are going to be having problem with your line manager. You may also have problem with your colleagues, because when you should tell them, or the way you should tell them, please wear your helmet, or please do this, they'll be like, who is this small boy? Do you know how many years I have been doing this installation project? And you are here telling me I must wear my helmet. So the approach by which you pass the message matters. The approach matters. There are approach when you have to be kind. There are approach when you have to be tough. There are approach when you have to enforce. So is a channel, is a system. You see, setting standards is part of what the managers does. Setting standards. If you are not setting standards, you are not managing. If you are not setting rules and regulations, you are not managing. You have not started. And if you are employed in a workplace where there are no such systems in place, you need to develop such system first. That is your first role to do. Implementing this health and safety policy becomes another issue. That is, if it's in place. If it's not in place, you need to develop those standards then and start implementing them and start educating the whole workforce. The work to do gradually, knowing that is a culture you want to build, and they must not change over time. They must not change immediately. It's going to take time for it to happen. Now, organizing the employee in a way that they can implement the health and safety policy as part of their work activities. That is what I told you earlier on, making everybody a safety manager. Don't be the only safety manager at the work site. Even the cleaner, let him understood or let her understand very well that, look, they have to be a safety manager. They have to be a safety officer. So if they are cleaning the floor, they have to make sure that they are considering people coming in, knowing that people can come in the morning, people can come in as they are cleaning. People will not say because they are cleaning, so they should stay outside. No. That means as they are cleaning, they have to make sure that they are putting notice at a distance. They are on the AC, they are on the fan, they are making sure that everywhere is drying up, knowing that people is going to use that corridor or that walkway. So these are the things you need to consider when doing such things. You see. And going forwards, it's like okay. Mr. Richmond, can you take me to that slide? Okay, fine. Now, and the next one now is measuring the health and safety performance. I've said that earlier on today. Auditing the whole health and safety system. Yes, that is the auditing I said earlier on. And I told you and have to carry out some of these things earlier. Reviewing the health and safety performance. To review means to look into the plans and the policies that's already in place. Is it working? Is it not working? That is why so many people have called me sometimes to say, please, can you help me develop a health and safety manual, a health and safety policy from operation? The company or the client says this one is not effective enough, or this one is not workable, this one is not this one. Why those policies are rejected is because they just went and did copy and paste job, not knowing that they are dealing with serious organizations who have to check line by line what your laws, what your policies is talking about. Does it relate to the job? For example, you are giving somebody a role of job for confined space, and what the policies is letting over there is talking about welding and excavation and all that. So there is no regulation or rules and procedures for the confined space assignment or task the person is going to execute. That means that document is updated. It has to be reviewed. Reporting performance to employers, very, very important. And reporting performance to employers is something that you need to understand how to handle, because some people will feel like, it's not their duty. The safety manager is there, safety officer is there, let him go and do his job. But I'm telling you as a manager, if you deploy the right attitude, the right understanding, knowing that your workforce, you need to carry them along, you need to let them understand their rules and regulations, you need to let them know that the job is for everybody. Safety is everybody's business. You need to let them know that if they are doing it right, they are going to benefit it. If they are doing it right, they are going to be the safety officer of the month. They are going to put their features, and they see some of those things happening. Fine. So at the end of the day, you find out that they are going to comply. When they have issue, they will report. But if you don't do that and you feel that they will just come up on their own and leave all their whole duties to come to your office to come and start reporting to you, please, I saw one oil or maybe liquid flowing from this, or I saw an employee smoking at a particular joint and all that, where there is a flammable gases and all that. That will not happen. That in the reality of the job, that will not happen unless they are saying what is going to bring them to your office, what is motivating them. Something must be motivating them. If there is nothing motivating them, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So the next is working with contractors and consultants. It's not far from what I've just discussed earlier on. Contractors and consultants are people who carry out work on a client's organization on behalf of the organization. On behalf of just like Chevron giving a construction job to a subcontractor to execute. he said. So both the employer and the contractor have legal duties to one another to ensure safe guide on health and safety issues. They have joint legal responsibilities to work together on health and safety matters. That is why you see every company have their own representative. This one also have their own representative. Two of them are corresponding together to do the needful, to make sure that the workers are doing their job right. And when you see that this employee is doing it wrong, instead of you to confronting such an employee, because he's not your own direct employee, he's employee from the other company. So what you need to do is to report to the safety manager or the safety representative of that company. Look at what is happening. Look at how your employees that is handling, if you know is going to constitute conflict by talking to such a person directly, you have to pass the message to his own safety manager or safety supervisor, who have to talk to him directly because they know how they relate. So in the real work, that is the way it works. Employers and contractors have joint responsibility to work together in interest of health and safety under the health and safety management system at work regulation. According to the rules and regulations, according to the responsibilities of both parties, they are to work together for the interest of everybody, interest of the workforce, interest of the community, host community, the interest of the project, to make sure there is zero fatality at the end of the day. The next is under the regulations dealing with specific hazard, the control of substance hazardous to health regulation. This now the regulation when it comes to control of substances, hazardous substances, regulation 2002. The control of lead at work regulation 2002. These are regulations that are controlling related hazardous operations that have some of these tasks. If you have to do, they have their own regulations. This is what you need to do. This is the means of environmental regulation. These how the workers need to behave. These how you are going to execute this. This is how you are going to do this. This is the kind of employees that need to do this. So at the end of the day, there are rules and regulations that are stipulated under these regulations. If you find your task within the scope of this task. The next is managers and supervisors from the client organization and the contracted company must work together to ensure that the workforce and other affected by work activities are protected from the harm. Yes, that is just like what the example I gave you earlier on. For example, Julius Berger, doing a job and making sure that anybody that should be affected by that job should be protected. There is no level of excuse you want to give that will be accepted if you don't do the needful. The needful must be done. Doing your best may not work, but doing the needful must be done. That is why I told you earlier on, sometimes they have to put heavy-duty energy lamps with generators, running it over the night, making sure that people are seeing clearly as they drive through that hazardous environment. That is doing the needful. If they want to do their best, they will just put the signs there and said, of course, as they are coming, flashing your light, you should see. If you are not seeing, that is your own business. That will not work if there should be any serious fatality or accident within that environment. So, management role. What are the management roles? The four key issues are what? Communication, cooperation, control, competency. These are the management roles. Communication, you must communicate. You must. Both written, verbal, different channels, through signages, memos, stickers. You must communicate. You must also cooperate. You have to cooperate. You have to cooperate. For example, somebody is telling you, please, I'm having pains if I'm using this, if I'm wearing this safety shoe, we have different kind of safety shoes. You have to find a way to cooperate to find the one that is suits his size or his nature of job and things of that nature to make sure that he's suitable and he's okay. So you have to cooperate. You have to be in control. You have to be in charge. The competency is where the intelligence comes in. If you don't have the intelligence, you can't be able to do the job right. Because there is no kind of magic. It's not a common sense. Safety is not a common sense. Yes, it's deeper than common sense. Because you have to think ahead. You have to think ahead. You have to control ahead before things should be happening. You have to be preventive, not reactive. A lot of safety professionals, safety managers are just waiting for when they are going to call them. Somebody just fell from this scaffold. Please call the ambulance or call the nurses or call this. That's what they are waiting for. But that is not the how it should be. You should be able to design procedures and policies in place that should control the overall workforce and put the systems in place for people to follow. And whoever that is not following should be sanctioned and should be kicked off the environment to maintain sanity in the environment or in the project. Now, through these managers or supervisors, clients, employers need a clearly identify all aspects of work they want the contractor to do. It have to be spelled out. You have to be well defined what they are to do. That is why if you see some of these companies, if you are coming to do any maintenance job, they have to tell you, if they don't give you permit to work, they have to tell you, okay, you have to make sure you have so equipment. You have to make sure you have so materials in place before you go and carry out that maintenance job. And they have to take you around the facility for an induction, a safety induction, in case if something happens, this is where what you need to do and all that. You have to get yourself acquainted with that environment. Within that period, you are going to execute the job or carry out your maintenance job within the area. So both the employer and the contractor must carry out a risk assessment of the task to be done. Not the risk assessment of the project, but the risk assessment of the task. What is the task? They want to carry out a welding work. What is the task? They want to replace the AC, the air conditioning system. What is the task? They want to repaint or change the furniture in an office or something. So you have to carry out the risk assessment. If they are replacing the furniture, what is the means of bringing in the new furniture? What are the waste that is going to be generated? Where are they going to be moved to? You have to think through the whole process before the job commences. That is a risk assessment. What are the possible hazards that are going to be in place? And what are the measures to put in place to control them? What kind of workforce are going to be required to execute the job? These are the issues that must be on black and white for you to say this is a kind of scaffold they must bring if they want to do this job. This is a kind of experience and a trained, competent painter, a competent welder, or a competent carpenter, or a competent whatever with social requirement that have to come and carry out the job if that must be done. And if the contractor or the subcontractor don't have all those things, we said they can't do the job because there's going to be possibility, there's going to be a risk, a high risk, a high possibility that something will happen because all the things you have stipulated down for them to have, they don't have it. And looking at the workforce, not well coordinated or with experience of what they are coming to do, through your assessment you have carried out, they can't do the job. So managers of the client employer need to select a contractor who is suitable to do the job. Simple. There is no sentiment there because he's your brother, because he's your sister, because he's your uncle, because he's from your tribe or from your village or from your community. Should not be brought into the matter. They should decide what information, instruction, and training is required for the client company employees. Do you see? So if they are coming to do work at height, You have to tell the contractor, say, look, all these your employees you are bringing on board, you have to show me their working at height safety training certificate. You have to show me. So they have to go and do training and bring the certifications. You have to prescribe, recommend, just like a medical doctor have to prescribe some drugs to ensure that you are healthy. That is the same way you have to look at the project and put down, itemize what they must bring on board, the competency of the people that must bring on board before they do the job, before the contract is given to them. It's as simple as that. So what are the supervisor's roles to this? The supervisor's responsibility includes putting into practice the health and safety systems and the control designed by the management team. The management team is the manager. You have to make sure that the supervisors understood the process and knows what to do. You have to make sure there are planning and monitoring, measurement, performance auditing. These are things I said earlier. You know, developing good working relationship, very, very key. If you must be a good manager, you must be a good communicator. If you must be a good manager, you must learn how to lead others right. If you must be a good manager, you must know how to communicate accordingly. That is the way it works. Anything outside this, you are going to have problem. You are going to have problem, and you are going to have conflict. And once you start having such problem, your job and your office is going to suffer it most. Yes, because when you pass your memo, some people will kick against it. Some people will say, you know, they will sabotage the whole thing. So that is the way it works. You have to make sure you have good working relationship. You provide motivation. Providing motivation, very, very key. I said it earlier. Very, very key. Providing motivation. And of course, you provide motivation to people who is complying to the rules and regulations. You don't provide motivation to people who are causing more havoc to the system or who doesn't know what they are doing. It's not possible. Those people should be sanctioned. You provide motivation to the staff, to the employees who are doing the needful. When you are telling them, don't use this equipment for this, they are not using it. When you are telling them, do so thing, they are doing it. You know, when you are telling them, those who are complying, reporting on safe conditions and on safe acts, you provide motivation, because the more you do that, they are following along with you. Handling conflict and dealing with disciplinary procedures, yes, very, very important. Organizing training and development. Organizing training and development is a daily matter when it comes to health and safety, because you must be a good talkative. You must be a good talkative for you to do the job of health and safety. I'm talking from personal experience. You must be a good talkative. You must be a good counselor. You must be a good trainer. You must be a good motivator. You must be a good advisor. You must be a good counselor. You must be a very good friendly person. You must be friendly enough, because you are dealing with everybody. You're not dealing with, it's not like an accounting unit that is only dealing with procurement. But procurement only comes to them when they need to buy and also another. Your own matter is that you are dealing with every department, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. You are dealing with all departments. You are dealing with all workforce, including the MD, from the MD to the cleaner. You are dealing with everybody. So your job is more critical than any other job as far as that organization is concerned. Employee and other stakeholders. Employers have legal responsibility to provide health and safety. Yes, self-employed person, contractors, everybody, voluntary workers, a student, everybody have roles to play. You are the one to determine those roles and assign the roles accordingly. In as much as employees have certain rights, including the right to work in a safe and healthy environment, they also have certain responsibility to take reasonable care of their own health and safety, that of their colleagues. Yes, both their own and the others. This within their jurisdiction to do. Is within his or her jurisdiction to do. Make sure your own safety and others is also considered. Employers must assess risk of them before start work. Yes, assess risk of the employees, assess the environments. Supervisors may be involved in assessing the risk involved and ensuring there is an appropriate induction. That's what I said before. Appropriate induction. Induction in making sure that the employees understood what they need to do, where they need to go, and rules and regulation that governs that work site or that office environment. There must be rules and regulations. Advices, supervision have to be done by the supervisors. I discussed it yesterday. I gave you the foundation yesterday, the meaning of supervisors, the meaning of supervision. Any necessary personal protective equipment required must be supplied by the employer. It is not to be supplied by the employee. The employer have to provide them. So you have to convince your manager, making sure they are replacing PPEs when wealth, when overdue, when not in order, when complain, investigate. But you have to be very careful, because I have managed these people before. You see somebody, you will give the person a safety shoe, because those days I give them the safety shoes in carton. I give them in carton. So when I give in carton, everybody will just go home with it as they're coming the following day, they will all wear it. Or maybe they are bringing the old one. You have to make sure you retrieve the old one and give the new one. If not, they will keep wearing that old one and go and sell that one. And especially if it's the quality safety shoes, not all these China safety shoes. One of them costs around 30, 40, 55,000, one safety shoe. If it's Red Wings, very expensive. And it's many of these multinationals, that's what they buy. So you have to be careful that they don't go and keep it at home and sell it and come and tell you story tomorrow. So you have to keep rules and regulation in place. Just like those days I gave one employee, the gentleman have to go and hide it under his boss and be wearing it to church. It's only when he's going to church he have to wear the safety shoe, because it have converted it to shoe for church, not for work. Until I discovered that he just went and hide the thing somewhere for purpose of going to church. So they think you have bought Christmas shoes for them. So they need to know why and the reason why they are getting the shoes and making sure they are wearing it. Now, safety representatives also have their own roles, which is the trade union have legal right to appoint officials, safety representative in workplaces. Yes, with agreement of the employer, employees can also elect non-union representatives of employee safety. You know, somebody said earlier on, like in the organization where they are not encouraging safety, nobody is talking about it, no system in place and all that. It's very, very rampant in Africa. In Nigeria, you see some big organization, so fantastic, everything in place, but no single safety officer. Everybody is doing what they want. No sanction, no order, no policy to control the lift, to control the staircase, to control the environment, to control the canteen, to evaluate the nature of food that the caterer people are supplying to the employees. Nobody is checking, nobody is checkmating, nobody is evaluating. These are issues. Nobody is checking the AC system, the weather system, and things of that nature. Nobody is checking the chairs the employees are using, which constitute a economic hazard to the employees over time. Nobody is checking. Everybody is just doing their own thing. That is very serious, bad safety culture. You know, there is no system in place. So the representative put the employees' views on health and safety matters to the employer. They have to review it. So sometimes you need to volunteer, and in such cases, somebody can volunteer to start something. Gradually, everybody get to know that, yeah, this is good and this is a good move and all that. In some organizations, they are taking safety moments like a ceremonial meetings or safety week of the year or something, just to dance and to drink and to do party and all that. They say they have done safety week. So in some cases, I have seen so many organizations that does such. So it's not so, you see. So at this point, these are the areas, levels of compliances and levels of responsibilities you need to put in place to make sure that things are in order and to make sure that everybody knows their responsibility, everybody knows what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and where to deploy such issues. At this point, also, the legal functions includes but not limited to identifying the hazard, the workplace, yes, investigate accident, investigate complaints and all that, carry out safety inspections, be consulted by employers about health and safety and welfare of employees and all that, take part in formulating risk assessment procedure. Risk assessment procedure is not a big deal. It's a matter of identifying the hazard in the workplace. It's just you draw it in a tabular format. You said, okay, potential hazards within the work environment, those that are going to be affected by those hazards, control measures that should be put in place, the status of the hazard, whether it's high, whether it's low, whether it's medium, and who to take action, who is taking action to make sure that those things are to be controlled, or what are the measures to put in place that those things are controlled. In a tabular format, you have generated a risk assessment format for such an environment. Then you now proceed to training and so many other things. Now, safety committee is also very key, very key, because safety committee is all about picking employees from various units of the organization, from various workplaces to form a committee. So at the end of the day, the committee have to review the rules and regulations, have to review the resources needed to drive the safety culture of that organization. They have to come from the accounting unit, from procurement, from warehousing, from admin, from MD's office, and from, you pick one person, depending on the nature of the department and the nature of your operations. So at the end of the day, the committee reviews some of these things. So when there is need to disburse 1 million, 2 million, 5 million to procure materials or anything, everybody will comply to it, because there is a representative of the procurement unit who is there to say, yes, I was in the meeting and this is the reason why this money have to be disbursed to the appropriate unit to buy this or to put such in place. Now, they promote cooperation. They promote corporations. They also draw the employees considerable knowledge, just what I said earlier, guide on processes and procedures, monitor and order. Fine. These are the things the safety committee does. And you as a safety person, you can chair it. You can be the chairman of the committee. You make yourself the chairman of the committee, then look for volunteers from this relevant department, and you are moving forward. Now, managers, supervisor, representative, safety committees, and whoever, they need to take part in managing the risk in the workplace. Yes, this is the foundation of the corporation. That is working together. That is why that committee is also very important. Cooperation, very important. There should be routine also to contact between employers and employees on health and safety matters. These are where the committees also comes in. Next. Okay. Now, team briefing should also include items about health and safety in the workplace. The schedule of safety meetings can be drawn up for, say, every 3 months. So you are to arrange, depending on the nature of the project and the possible time, especially sometimes the safety meetings or the toolbox meeting have to be before the commencement of work. If the work is commencing 8 o'clock, so you have to make sure that every employee is at work site by 7:30, 30 minutes. Is not a prayer time. I have been in a work site. There was a project site I went to. I came very early, and the safety manager gathered everybody for safety briefing. According to them, they said they are going for safety briefing. I say fine. And I was just still within the site. And what I saw in that safety briefing is nothing but prayer. It's nothing but prayer. So I would just imagine what prayer have to do with telling people what to do, how they are going to do it, and giving them rules and regulation of what they are expected to see and how they are expected to control the hazard. These are not what prayer will do. It's what knowledge and competency and knowledge and understanding will do. So you see some of the safety officers you see in the work site, they are some of the problems. They are also a hazard themselves. They are also, I do say it sometimes. Some of those safety persons, they are not there to save anybody. They are only there to constitute more problems if care is not taken. That is why sometimes I do encourage the companies to bring in third-party auditors to come and audit your safety unit and safety department to even know what they are doing there. That will help the management to know their level of output, and the external committee or the partner or evaluator will be able to give them appropriate reports. The level of compliance and the nature of management of their safety persons is very, very important. So motivating employees, opportunity to raise issues, take away fears, incentives, trainings, additional responsibilities. These are things you have to discuss in the safety meetings. So the last thing in this booklet is questions. There are questions that you need to answer to make sure that you are flowing accordingly. Some of the questions, he said, what are the key elements for effective management system? You have to answer it. List roles of an employer in ensuring health and safety management system at the workplace. There are questions behind these manuals. You know, he said, define the following. Competent person. Who is a competent person? Is what we discussed. Hazard. Then reportable accident. When you say reportable accident, these are the issues you need to know and you need to answer. At this point, thank you so much. But before we conclude, maybe I have to call Mom Ash to make one or two inputs.
I was thinking about the part where you took over, Emmanuel. Mr. Richmond was saying something really useful. I hope he will add it again because I lost the thing he was talking about. Yeah, it was about something I will put in my training anyways. Whether you would do the investment of $1 or euro for a manual or replace the complete machine to be able to comply with whatever law, because this is something we as occupational health and safety managers should be using a lot, not only when there is a law, but also when there is a thing about customer safety. Trustworthy customers, they earn the company more profits. So it's important, even when there is no law, that you have a good reputation for your products or your services. And commercially, making contracts with other companies, suppliers, for example. Suppliers will like to work with companies that are taking care of safety and health inside the company as well as outside the company, because they're connected to it. If one of your family members does something wrong, you can imagine that has effect on how people see you, because you're connected to them genetically or by marriage, or so it is something we should use a lot of times to convince company owners, or well, employers in general, because sometimes it's a board of directors, to convince those people to invest more in safety and health. That's something really useful for us, to touch them where they think it's interesting. A company owner thinks about his profit, his pocket, his money. So touch him there. And I will speak about talking to different parties in the company in my training.
Thank you so much, Mom S. And on behalf of the team, we also welcoming Engineer Steve is here.
You have learned about, if you look at the thing that have been done today, the training shows that everybody is important and everybody can contribute to health and safety of any place. You don't even have to be the director, even from the designer. You have a job to do, architecturals, you have job to do, building, you have job to do, even admin. You see, one of the best way to actually deal with to begin to put in health and safety, even from recruitment. By the time you are recruiting, you are looking for the best of the candidate and the ideal candidate. You're actually doing a very good health and safety by making sure your recruitment passes through some procedure and gets the right person. Not just because you get just anybody on the work, except you do a lot to do the training. If you get the wrong hand, then safety will be compromised. And so even when you don't have big position, you are already important when it comes to health and safety. When you talk about safety representative in a committee, safety committee, which you have opportunity to be able to influence the budget, influence the authority, and you can advocate and you can raise your voice in various departments so that this is what we have agreed and that is what will make the organization move forward. And so everybody is important. And whoever you are, it does not matter what you are doing in your place of work now. You find yourself into this place, you have that zeal and the passion to be here, it means you can even contribute more by the time you get to your place of work. And so they've highlighted to us different people, group of people, managers, senior managers, officers, and even designer, and even procurement, admin, and the rest of them that can be very useful when it comes to health and safety. And I think we should take it down and the information should be cascaded. It's not an information, health and safety is not something you keep into your pocket, and you don't share with people. As soon as you understand it, as soon as you know this is going to be helpful, you need to cascade it either to the management or to the lower cadre. And I just want to say thank you to all the trainers today. I want to appreciate all their effort. Thank you very much. And also thank all the trainers that are on board today. God bless.
You unmute yourself and shout out to our leaders who are on board today. We appreciate them. We love them. Thank you. And bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, everyone.